When I hear someone talking about they're stuck with alcohol and they haven't yet recognized that alcohol isn't the answer. And they're still thinking that this is just my lot. There's no way to change. I don't have as many options as the next person. And so this is a place where better questions can create better lives, better outcomes, right? And it doesn't happen perfectly and it doesn't happen immediately. But as we continue to explore, I have questions and lean into how wonderful these questions can be, even in their discomfort, because they're allowing us to spark that intuition again, spark that curiosity, spark that place that was dumbed down and flat when we were drinking. Welcome to the Sober Edge podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Teri Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion. Learn the truth behind the alcohol myths and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. Welcome back to another edition of the Sober Edge podcast. I'm your host, the sober nutritionist, Teri Patterson. And today I want to talk to you about a thought that bubbled up while I was having a conversation with a client. And here's the thing. We know that alcohol isn't the answer, and yet we still have questions. Alcohol used to be my shortcut through all the hard feelings. And without it, I had to learn to sit with the questions. And honestly, that's where real growth started. So today, I'm going to welcome you, my listeners, into a place where we're going to talk about this weird, beautiful reality where giving up alcohol doesn't hand us a perfect life. It hands you a bigger life, one with more questions, more exploration, and often more discomfort too. And for me, when I stopped drinking alcohol, I was way out of my comfort zone. I didn't know anyone who didn't drink back in 2015. And I didn't really know what my life would look like without alcohol. And, there were hard days at first. I remember the first time I went away, and it was about just a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks into my alcohol-free journey. And I've talked about this before, but my husband and I were meeting up with some of his high school friends, and we were going away for the weekend. And there's two other couples, and one couple drank a lot, and one couple, he didn't drink at all, and she drank very little. And we were inviting some additional friends to join us for lunch. And so I just knew it was going to be a boozy weekend. And so, there was a lot of awkward moments and there was a discomfort. And, it wasn't really about turning down the drink because I was very clear telling people I wasn't drinking. But I just remember getting really uncomfortable and bored because I didn't know what to do with myself when they were all just sitting around reminiscing and day drinking. And I thought, uh-oh, here we go. Just as I thought, drunk people are boring or I'm boring. And so in that moment, I had to ask the first question, what can I do instead? And that was a powerful moment, really, because I grabbed the friend who doesn't drink, and we had bikes with us. We were on the coast, on the Monterey Peninsula, and I said, "Do you want to go for a bike ride?" And we just took off and spent about an hour and getting outside, doing something different, enjoying the day. It cleared my head, and it reminded me how much agency I had. That if I asked the right question, my brain would help provide the answer. And so it can be awkward in a lot of ways in the beginning. But if we are really ready to explore, alcohol isn't the answer, but I still have questions. Those questions are such a beautiful place to open us up to growth, even through the discomfort. And, just getting comfortable with our own self, asking better questions, showing up differently, it's challenging in the beginning. We don't start our alcohol free journey feeling 100% comfortable. That's just not the way life works in any change that we make. And so, the myth, once you stop drinking, life feels amazing. Well, that might be true, but certainly not right away. I want you to imagine you put your hands in a circle, if you will, and think of that as your comfort zone. And adjacent to your comfort zone in a concentric circle is the fear zone. And then adjacent to the fear zone in another concentric circle is the growth zone. And so we start in our comfort zone and we push ourselves out, we leap out, we take a step out, we tiptoe out into that fear zone. And this is where the discomfort happens. We've got to get through that fear zone into the growth zone. And even in the growth zone, it's not about feeling comfortable. It's about getting comfortable through new experiences, slowing down, allowing the discomfort to come and go. And we can reframe discomfort as a sign of expansion, not failure. And alcohol kept me inside a very small, safe box for a long time. And I, just like all of you, once I realized alcohol was no longer the answer, I had to get into that fear zone. And for me, it looked like deciding to ditch alcohol forever and telling people and then showing up and not reverting back to the old drinking pattern. Certainly there was fear there, but there also was that beautiful place of growth. And so once alcohol's out of the way, this is a place where the beautiful questions of life can float up. And this can be an exciting time, and it can also be scary as hell. And so, gosh, just for example, questions that came up. Who am I when I'm not avoiding, pleasing, numbing? What do I want to create instead of just consuming? Can I trust myself to be fully present without escaping? How do I handle silence? How do I turn off that negative voice in my head? What risks am I willing to take now that I'm no longer checked out of life, sedating my dreams? So, what big questions are surfacing for you? When I was drinking and over drinking, I was dialing down the questions. I was really living by default. And part of designing my new life when I stopped drinking was allowing these questions to bubble up and to get excited and curious versus afraid. And sure, they were a little scary, getting into that fear zone, right? But it's the most alive you will ever feel is when you are in that growth zone. And so, alcohol makes us feel comfortable, but it also keeps us stuck. And so, as we stretch into that first initial awkwardness, what now? That's the place where we're really challenging those old patterns. And there's no right way to get out of your comfort zone, but we can ask these questions. We can ask these better questions. And this is a powerful way to start. I think I've talked before about how to ask better questions and how to boss your brain around. And that was something that I learned early on and just kept leaning into what if I asked a different question? So, the old questions, how can I fit in? What's wrong with me? How do I make this feeling go away? How can I dumb down my thoughts or slow down my thoughts? All of those things led me to choosing alcohol. And when I got to those better questions, they looked like this. What is this feeling trying to tell me? What kind of connections feel real to me? What do I need right now to honor myself? What brave, small step could I take today? And these better questions They come, first of all, from recognizing that we don't have all the answers. Sometimes I think that the hardest part is to just, when I hear someone talking about they're stuck with alcohol and they haven't yet recognized that alcohol isn't the answer. And they're still thinking that this is just my lot. There's no way to change. I don't have as many options as the next person. And so this is a place where better questions can create better lives, better outcomes, right? And it doesn't happen perfectly and it doesn't happen immediately. But as we continue to explore, I have questions and lean into how wonderful these questions can be, even in their discomfort, because they're allowing us to spark that intuition again, spark that curiosity, spark that place that was dumbed down and flat when we were drinking. And so I just think asking better questions is one of the most powerful things we can do. And often we might be asking why. Why can other people drink and I can't? Why is this so hard? And those are often not very useful questions. Our brain will give us answers, but they're often not very helpful or productive or even kind answers. And so anytime you're stuck in the why, I want to invite you to consider asking yourself, what? What can I do now? Is, what are my options? What are my new options now? And then how? How can I create a different outcome? Those are usually so much more helpful than the why questions. And so, we ask ourselves all the time, what do I want for myself now? Where can I create new opportunities? How can I move through this day with more ease? How can I become more authentic? Who do I truly want to connect to? You might have noticed there was no whys in these questions. And so if you're at this place where you're recognizing alcohol isn't the answer, I hope you will have questions. And I hope you will use those questions as this beautiful springboard, standing on the sober edge, if you will, pun intended, standing there thinking, these questions are my way through the fear zone and into the growth zone, and out of the growth zone and into a new place where it's more comfortable. And then I challenge myself again and I go back out for more growth. I keep looking for growth. I keep recognizing that I have the ability and I want to change and be fluid and be more open minded and more engaged with life on a day to day basis. And so it doesn't mean that we're fearless. It means we're willing to listen, to ask, to explore, to wake up and stay awake. And so maybe today, just choose one new question to live into. Write it down, carry it with you, and you may find that it's going to open a door that you didn't even know was there. So I would love to hear, what are the questions you're asking yourself now? What big questions are bubbling up for you on the other side of drinking? And what are you noticing? What are you getting curious about? What questions have you been afraid to ask? And now, as you're growing, as you're on this personal growth trajectory, you're actually enjoying that beautiful place of feeling alive and growing and challenging yourself in new ways. I think one of the most powerful things we can use is our curiosity and leaning into our intuition. So I would love to hear what your questions are. Send me a message, a direct message, reply to me, Teri at thesobernutritionist.com. If you're reading this, if you found this podcast through my show notes, you could reply there. I would love to hear what questions are coming up for you as you recognize alcohol isn't the answer, but I still have questions. All right, that's the Sober Edge podcast for this week. I will post another edition in 2 weeks. And until then, be well and ask those brave questions. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.